The air in the Willow Creek Police Department was thick with routine on a muggy Wednesday morning. In late July, the precinct, a squat brick building on the edge of a small but growing southern town, hummed with the usual rhythm, officers shuffling, paperwork, the clatter of keyboards, and the occasional crackle of a dispatcher's voice over the radio. Outside, the sun beat down on cracked asphalt, and inside, tempers simmered just below the surface. It was the kind of day where small slights could flare into something bigger. At 11:47 a.m., the front door swung open, and a woman stepped into the lobby. She was in her early 50s, with a commanding presence that seemed to shift the room's gravity. Her deep brown skin glowed under the fluorescent lights, and her short, silver-streaked hair was neatly coiled. She wore a tailored burgundy blazer over a crisp white blouse, black slacks, and low heels that clicked softly against the linoleum. A leather portfolio rested under her arm, and a simple gold pendant hung at her neck. No badge, no visible rank, just an air of quiet authority. Behind the reception desk, Officer Tanya Reed, a young woman with a knack for noticing details, looked up from her computer. She offered a polite smile. "Good morning, ma'am. How can I assist you?" Before the woman could respond, a voice cut through the lobby like a blade. "Hey, you lost or something?" Officer Jared Holt leaned against the wall near the coffee machine, his arms crossed. At 38, Holt was a fixture in Willow Creek PD, 18 years on the force, a loud laugh, and a reputation for bending rules just shy of breaking them. His sandy hair was cropped close, and his uniform strained slightly at the shoulders. He smirked, his tone dripping with condescension. "This ain't the DMV." The woman turned her head slowly, her dark eyes locking onto Holt's. She didn't flinch or frown, just held his gaze with a calm that seemed to unnerve him. "I'm not lost," she said, her voice smooth but firm, like polished oak. "I'm here for my first day." Holt's smirk widened, and a few officers nearby, SKD Mike Donovan and Officer Luis Garcia, exchanged glances, stifling chuckles. "First day," Holt pushed off the wall, stepping closer. "What, you the new secretary? Or maybe you're here to fix the AC, it's been acting up." His words drew a nervous laugh from Donovan, but Garcia's smile faded as he sensed something off. The woman set her portfolio on the reception desk and opened it with deliberate precision. She pulled out a single sheet of paper, its city seal catching the light. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Carter," she said, her voice carrying across the lobby. "I'm your new chief of police." The room froze. Tanya Reed's fingers hovered over her keyboard. Donovan's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. Garcia's eyes widened, and Holt's smirk vanished, replaced by a flush of red creeping up his neck. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioner struggling in the corner. "Chief?" Holt sputtered, stepping closer, his voice low but laced with disbelief. "You're telling me you're running this department?" The word you carried a weight that everyone felt a jab at her race, her gender, her very presence. He leaned in, too close, and in a moment of reckless anger, spit on the floor just inches from her shoes. "That's what I think of that." A collective gasp rippled through the lobby. Tanya Reed stood, her chair scraping loudly. Garcia muttered, "Man, what are you doing?" Donovan looked away, suddenly engrossed in his paperwork. Evelyn Carter didn't move. She reached into her blazer pocket, pulled out a handkerchief, and dabbed the corner of her mouth as if wiping away a speck of dust. Then she spoke, her voice steady as steel. "Officer, you just disrespected the highest-ranking officer in this building, and you did it in front of witnesses and cameras." She nodded toward the security camera above the desk. "I suggest you rethink your next move." Before Holt could respond, the side door opened, and Deputy Chief Clara Nguyen stepped into the lobby, a weary woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Nguyen had been acting chief for 6 months, while the town council searched for a permanent replacement. She took one look at the scene, Holt's clenched fists, Evelyn's calm resolve, the stunned officers, and understood everything. "Holt," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Badge and gun." "Now." Holt blinked, his jaw tightening. "You can't be serious, Clara." "This is dead serious," Nguyen interrupted. "Hand them over, or I'll have you escorted out." Holt hesitated, looking around for support. But no one met his gaze. Garcia stared at the floor, and Donovan busied himself with his coffee. With a grunt, Holt unclipped his badge and slammed it onto the desk, followed by his holstered gun. He stormed toward the exit, pausing to mutter, "This ain't over." Before the door slammed behind him, the lobby fell silent. Evelyn adjusted her blazer and turned to Tanya Reed. "Officer, could you direct me to the chief's office?" Tanya nodded quickly, fumbling with her keys. "Yes, Chief, right this way." As Evelyn followed, Nguyen lingered, her gaze sweeping over the remaining officers. "If anyone thinks what just happened was okay, start looking for a new job," she said, then turned to follow Evelyn. In the chief's office, a modest room with a worn desk and a window overlooking the parking lot, Evelyn set her portfolio down and exhaled, not from fear or anger, but from focus. She had spent 25 years climbing the ranks in larger cities, earning a Ph.D. in criminal justice, and leading reform efforts in troubled departments. Willow Creek, with its 30,000 residents and history of racial tensions, was her biggest challenge yet. She wasn't here to make friends, she was here to build trust. Starting with a department that had just shown its cracks. By 2 p.m., the incident had leaked. A civilian clerk, shaken by what she'd witnessed, texted a friend, who posted about it on X. "White cop spits at black woman in Willow Creek PD. Turns out she's the new chief." The post included a grainy still from the security footage showing Holt's sneer and Evelyn's unflinching stare. By evening, it had 8,000 reposts, and local news vans were parked outside the precinct. Evelyn sat with Nguyen, reviewing personnel files, when her phone buzzed with a call from Mayor Lena Watkins. "Chief Carter, this is going viral," Watkins said. "We need a statement." "Let it settle," Evelyn replied. "I'll speak tomorrow at 10 a.m. No scripts, just me." Watkins hesitated but agreed. As Evelyn hung up, Nguyen raised an eyebrow. "You sure you want to wait?" Evelyn nodded. "They need to see who I am, not just what happened." Across town, Holt sat in his pickup truck, parked outside a dive bar. His phone vibrated with messages from colleagues, some supportive, most silent. The news played the footage on loop, and his stomach churned. He hadn't meant for it to go this far. He'd acted on impulse, fueled by years of unchecked resentment. Now, with his badge gone and his name trending, he wondered how he'd explain this to his wife, his kids, himself. Outside the precinct, a small crowd gathered, locals holding signs reading "Justice for Chief Carter" and "Willow Creek deserves better." By nightfall, the group had grown to 40, their candles flickering in the humid air. Inside, younger officers like Garcia watched from the windows, whispering about change. Evelyn, still in her office, looked out at the crowd and felt a spark ignite. This wasn't just her fight, it was theirs too. The next morning, Willow Creek's municipal building was a hive of activity. By 9:30 a.m., the front lawn was packed with residents, reporters, and activists. Camera crews from Atlanta and Charlotte set up tripods, their lenses trained on the precinct's entrance. Folding chairs lined the sidewalk, filled with church leaders, retirees, and students clutching posters. One read, "Chief Carter, we stand with you." Another, bolder, declared, "No more silence." The air buzzed with anticipation, but also with tension. Rumors of a counter-protest by Holt's supporters had spread overnight. Inside the precinct's conference room, Evelyn Carter prepared for her first public address as chief. She wore a charcoal suit, her gold pendant catching the light. No notes, no teleprompter, just a glass of water and a resolve that had carried her through worse storms. Deputy Chief Nguyen stood by the door, coordinating with security. "We've got about 200 people out there," Nguyen said, "and the networks are live. You ready?" Evelyn gave a small smile. "I've been ready for years." She stepped to the podium, flanked by Mayor Watkins and Councilwoman Marcus Tate, a local civil rights advocate. The room fell silent as cameras flashed. Evelyn paused, letting the weight of the moment settle, then spoke. "Yesterday, an officer in this department disrespected me in a way that was captured on video. You've seen it, you've felt it. But let me be clear, this isn't about one moment or one man. It's about a system that's allowed moments like that to go unchecked for too long. I'm here to change that. Not for me, but for every person who wears a badge and every person who looks to us for protection." The crowd outside erupted in cheers, audible through the open windows. Evelyn continued, her voice steady but passionate. "Being chief isn't about power, it's about responsibility. To the officers who serve with integrity, I see you. To the community that's been let down, I hear you. And to those who resist change, I'll say this, the future of Willow Creek PD starts now, and it starts with accountability." She stepped back, and the room exploded in applause. Reporters shouted questions, but Evelyn raised a hand. "I'll take questions later. Today, I'm meeting with my officers. We have work to do." She left the podium, Nguyen at her side, as clips of her speech hit X and news sites within minutes. By noon, #Chief Carter was trending nationwide, but not everyone was inspired. In a diner across town, Holt sat with two former colleagues, Officers Dan Wheeler and Greg Sims, both on administrative leave for unrelated complaints. "She's turning this into a circus," Holt growled, stabbing at his eggs. "I made one mistake, and now I'm the villain." Wheeler, a burly man with a buzz cut, nodded. "They're eating it up, man. The media, the activists they want. US gone." Sims, quieter, sipped his coffee. "You shouldn't have spit, Jared. But yeah, she's coming in hot. Heard she's digging into old cases." Holt's jaw clenched. "Let her dig. She won't last. This town doesn't want her kind of change." The words hung heavy, and even Wheeler shifted uncomfortably. But Holt wasn't alone. An anonymous letter, signed concerned officers of WCPD, appeared online that afternoon, claiming Evelyn's leadership was divisive and targeting veteran cops. It spread quickly, amplified by local radio hosts and a handful of vocal residents. Evelyn read the letter in her office, her expression unreadable. Nguyen tossed a printout on her desk. "This is organized," Nguyen said. "Probably Holt's buddies. Maybe the union. They're testing you." Evelyn nodded. "Good. Let them. It'll show me who's who." That afternoon, Evelyn held her first command staff meeting, the conference room packed with 20 officers. From captains to sergeants, she stood at the head of the table, her presence commanding silence. "We're starting with a clean slate," she said, "but that means facing the past. I've reviewed 5 years of complaints: excessive force, racial profiling, harassment. Too many were dismissed without investigation. That ends today." Captain Ron Baxter, a grizzled veteran with 25 years on the force, spoke up. "Chief, with respect, officers are already on edge. This feels like a witch hunt." Evelyn met his gaze. "It's not a hunt, Captain. It's a reckoning. Good officers have nothing to fear. The ones who do, they should." Baxter leaned back, unconvinced but silent. Officer Aisha Malik, a young black woman in internal affairs, raised her hand. "Chief, I've seen complaints about locker room harassment, racial slurs, sexist comments ignored for years. Officers who report it get ostracized. What's your plan for that?" Evelyn nodded. "Thank you, Officer Malik. Starting next week, we're implementing mandatory bias training, a confidential reporting system, and zero-tolerance policies. I'm also reopening 3 cases tied to Officer Holt, including a 2023 traffic stop involving excessive force." The room tensed. Baxter exchanged a look with SKT, Tom Riley, a Holt ally. Evelyn continued, undeterred, "This isn't about punishment. It's about trust. The community needs to trust us, and we need to trust each other. That starts with doing the work." As the meeting ended, Evelyn noticed Riley lingering, his expression guarded. "Chief," he said quietly, "Holt's got friends here. They're not happy. Watch your back." Evelyn met his eyes. "Thank you, Sergeant. I always do." By evening, the crowd outside had grown to 100, their signs now joined by candles and songs. Evelyn stepped onto the precinct steps, unannounced, and spoke briefly. "Thank you for being here," she said. "This is your department, too. Let's build it together." The cheers followed her back inside, but as she returned to her office, a text from an unknown number flashed on her phone. "You're not welcome here. Leave or regret it." 2 weeks later, Willow Creek was a town divided. Evelyn Carter's reforms, new training, reopened cases, and a community oversight board had sparked hope in some and resentment in others. The precinct buzzed with change. Officers attended bias workshops, body cameras were upgraded, and Evelyn held weekly open forums with residents. But the anonymous threats continued. Letters slipped under her office door, cryptic voicemails, and graffiti on her car reading "Go back," she reported, each to Nguyen, who urged her to involve the state police. "I'm not running," Evelyn said. "They want fear. They're getting focus." Holt, still on leave, had become a rallying point for a small but vocal group. A local blog, Willow Creek Truth, published exposes claiming Evelyn was importing big city chaos and punishing officers for minor infractions. The blog's author, anonymous but suspected to be a retired cop, cited sources within the department. At a town hall, a resident named Carl Dempsey, a friend of Holt's, stood up. "Chief Carter, you're tearing this town apart. Holt made a mistake, but you're making it about race. Why can't we move on?" Evelyn, standing at the podium, didn't hesitate. "Mr. Dempsey, this isn't about one mistake. It's about a pattern. Last year, black drivers were stopped at 3 times the rate of white drivers in Willow Creek. Complaints against officers were ignored. That's not moving on, that's standing still. I'm here to move us forward." The room split, half applauded, half murmured in dissent. Aisha Malik, seated in the audience, took notes. Later, she met Evelyn privately. "Chief, I found something." Holt's 2023 case, the traffic stop. The kid, Jamal Harris, was 17. He filed a complaint saying Holt broke his wrist. The report vanished, but I found a backup in the old server. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "Good work. Get me everything. And be careful." The next day, Evelyn announced the case's reopening on local TV, sparking outrage among Holt's supporters. That night, a brick crashed through the precinct's front window with a note, "Stop digging." Nguyen tightened security, but Evelyn pressed on, meeting with Jamal Harris and his mother, Tanya. "I'm sorry this was ignored," Evelyn told them. "We're making it right." Tanya, tearful, hugged her. "You're the first one who's listened." Meanwhile, Holt's allies grew bolder. At a bar, Wheeler and Sims plotted. "She's gotta go." Wheeler said, "We leak something big, make her look corrupt." Sims hesitated. "Like what?" Wheeler grinned. "We'll find something or make it up." Unbeknownst to them, Garcia, sitting nearby, overheard, torn between loyalty and disgust. He texted Nguyen, "Holt's crew is planning something. Don't trust Wheeler." Evelyn, unaware of the brewing plot, focused on community outreach. She visited churches, schools, and barbershops, listening to residents' fears and hopes. At a youth center, she met 15-year-old Keyshawn Brooks, who asked, "Why should I trust cops when they hurt people like me?" Evelyn knelt beside him. "You shouldn't trust a badge blindly. Trust actions. I'm here to make sure those actions match our promises." Keyshawn nodded, skeptical but intrigued. By month's end, Evelyn's approval ratings soared among younger residents and minorities. But the department remained tense. Riley, the sergeant Hood warned her, approached her again. "Chief, I'm not with Holt, but he's got more pull than you think. Some guys are talking about walking out." Evelyn nodded. "Let them. I'd rather have a small team I trust than a big one I don't." That night, Evelyn sat in her office, reviewing Jamal's case. A photo of the teen's bruised wrist stared back at her. She thought of her own son, now 25, and the times she'd feared for him in a world that judged his skin first. Her phone buzzed, a call from her sister, Renee. "Ev, you're on CNN again. You okay?" Evelyn smiled. "I'm where I'm supposed to be." But as she hung up, a new ex-post caught her eye. Chief Carter took bribes in her last job. Proof coming soon. It was from Willow Creek Truth. With 2,000 reposts, Evelyn's heart sank, but her resolve hardened. The fight was far from over. 3 months into Evelyn Carter's tenure, Willow Creek was at a crossroads. The Willow Creek Truth blog's bribery allegations had fizzled, no proof emerged, and Garcia's tip led Nguyen to trace the post to Wheeler, who was quietly suspended. Holt's influence waned as more officers, inspired by Evelyn's forums, spoke out. Jamal Harris's case concluded with Holt's termination and a public apology from the department. Broadcast live. Tanya Harris, standing beside Evelyn, said, "This chief gave us hope." Evelyn's reforms took root. The Oversight Board, led by Councilwoman Tate, reviewed complaints transparently. Bias training, initially resisted, sparked honest discussions among officers like Malik and Garcia, who formed a peer support group. Body camera compliance hit 98%, and stops of black drivers dropped by 40%. At a community barbecue, Keyshawn Brooks shyly gave Evelyn a drawing of her in her blazer, captioned, "Chief of Change." She hung it in her office. But challenges remained. Baxter and Riley, though cooperative, pushed back on rapid changes, citing morale. Evelyn met them halfway, slowing some rollouts, but holding firm on accountability. "We're building a foundation." She told them, "It's hard now, but it'll last." One evening, Evelyn received a letter, not a threat, but an apology. It was from Holt, handwritten, delivered by his sister. "I was wrong. I let anger and fear take over. I'm sorry for what I did." Evelyn read it twice, then filed it away. She didn't forgive him, not yet, but she saw a glimmer of change even in him. At the 6-month mark, Evelyn stood before a packed town hall. The crowd was diverse, young and old, black, white, Latino, Asian. She spoke plainly. "We've come far, but we're not done. Trust is earned daily. I'm here for the long haul, and I need you with me." The applause was thunderous, joined by Baxter, Riley, Malik, Garcia, and even Tanya Reed, who'd been promoted to sergeant. As Evelyn stepped off the stage, Keyshawn ran up, grinning. "Chief, I want to be a cop someday, like you." Evelyn knelt, her eyes shining. "You'll be better than me, Keyshawn. Start by being you." That night, driving home, Evelyn reflected on the spark that had ignited it all. Holt's spit, her resolve, the town's response. The fire had tested her, but it had also forged something stronger, a department and a community learning to rise together.